This anime begins with Sogo Amagi, a teenage boy passionate about collecting crystal stones. He spent his days scouring abandoned mining areas in search of rare finds. On this particular day, he had been rummaging through a former mine when he stumbled upon a strange light. Before he knew it, the light shot toward him, and he fell unconscious. When Sogo awoke, he was surprised to find a bright red crystal in his hand. Excited by his unexpected discovery, he hopped on his quick board and raced back home. As he sped through the streets, he couldn't stop grinning at the thought of showing off his new treasure to his friends. He had never found anything like this before, and he couldn't wait to see their reactions. Upon arriving home, Sogo eagerly greeted Domon, a man he was familiar with, before darting up to his room on the second floor. There, he pulled out the red crystals and placed them under a microscope to get a closer look. As he examined the stunning gems, Sogo couldn't contain his excitement. Suddenly, something strange happened to his hand. He quickly checked to see if anything was wrong but concluded that it must have just been an illusion. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something special about these crystals. Suddenly, Domon's voice from downstairs interrupted Sogo's thoughts, bringing him back to the present. There, Domon asked if he had already had breakfast. Hearing that, Sogo was taken aback. He had completely forgotten to buy bread for lunch. In a hurry, he grabbed the crystal from his room and stuffed it into his bag before rushing downstairs to join Domon. Meanwhile, at a nearby military facility, several officers were investigating a mysterious object called Lima. They decided to send in 3 advanced humanoid robots, known as armor, to investigate the object in the sea they had been monitoring. One officer, Gus, was chosen to lead the expedition. Armors were highly advanced machines, capable of long-range and close combat, and controlled by human operators. As Sogo arrived at the bakery, he was greeted by the seller, a woman named V, who handed him a bag full of bread. After that, Sogo sped home on his quick board. Suddenly, the bag containing the red crystal bounced against his back. But as he approached his house, the crystal suddenly exploded, sending a burst of energy that sent him flying off his board and crashing into a girl standing on the sidewalk. The girl, Con Lanchester, tumbled to the ground under the impact. Sogo quickly scrambled to his feet, rushing to her side to see if she was okay cause he felt guilty about the accidental collision. Unexpectedly, when Sogo was finishing up at the bakery, Con burst into the store, panting and out of breath, asking him to help her because someone named Roman and Otto was looking for her. Hearing that, he was taken aback by the sudden request, but he didn't hesitate to grab his quick board and follow her. As they rode through the streets, Con explained that Roman was her betrothed, chosen by their families for marriage, but she had refused the arrangement and fled, leading Roman and Otto to chase after her. Despite their best efforts, Roman's vehicle was able to keep pace with Sogo's quick board. Then Con urged him to go faster, refusing to give up and be caught. Hearing that, he pushed the quick board to its limits, racing through the streets in a desperate attempt to outrun their pursuers. But Con's insistence on going faster proved to be their downfall. Sogo lost control of the quick board and was both thrown off, tumbling into a former mining pit. Miraculously, they both survived the fall but found themselves at the bottom of a deep, dark hole. Then she apologized for her actions, regretting the events that had led them there. Shortly after, Sogo quickly switched on the lights, trying to make the best of their situation. However, Con was worried they would be trapped in the hole, but he reassured her that he would fix the quick board and find a way out. Despite the danger and uncertainty of their situation, he remained calm and determined to find a solution. As Sogo and Con found themselves trapped at the bottom of the mining pit, the 3 armors from the military were already in the sea, firing upon the seabed. The vibrations from the shots reached Sogo and Con, causing them to feel the effects of the explosion, even from their underground location. Suddenly, they saw an underground lake filled with light. In the middle of the lake, there was a sudden explosion, causing the water to recede and revealing a large red crystal, known as a Giftium, in the center of the lake. When Sogo approached the crystal, the red crystal in his pocket began to glow and fly toward the Giftium. It then exploded, causing a burst of energy that sent him and Con tumbling backward. They watched in amazement as the 2 crystals merged and shone with a bright, otherworldly light. As the 2 crystals merged and shone with a bright light, an unconscious girl was suddenly launched out of the explosion and flew towards Sogo. Without thinking, Sogo reached out and caught her, cradling her gently in his arms. But their respite was short-lived, as another explosion rocked the underground lake. Then the armor from the military was sent to secure the Giftium and the girl who had emerged from it. After that, Gus ordered the armor to capture Sogo and Con, and they were cornered and outnumbered. Just when all seemed lost, the girl in Sogo's arms began to glow with an otherworldly light. She took out one of the armor with a burst of energy, attacking the remaining machines and chasing them. Soon after, it didn't take long. The armor was able to defeat the military's armor very easily, so Gus, who saw this, was very impressed and excited. Then he ordered his men to prepare his armor. After that, Gus charged toward the armor that was protecting Sogo and Khan, his own machine ready for battle. The fight was fierce, causing the underground lake to crumble and shake. Sogo, Khan, and the girl, Lima, were all thrown to the ground. Despite the chaos and danger, Sogo remained calm and tried to reach Khan and Lima. As he touched her glowing body, the light emanating from her intensified, and the earlier defeated armor flew towards them, saving them from the collapsing cave. As they hit the ground, the armor disappeared, and they were soon met with the sound of Roman's voice. Then Sogo and Khan eagerly climbed into Roman's vehicle, bringing Lima. They were relieved to have survived the ordeal, but many questions remained unanswered about Lima and her power. When they arrived home, Sogo and Khan told Roman and Otto about their encounter with Lima and how they had come to find her. Shortly afterward, Domon arrived, bringing food for them to share. Suddenly, Lima woke up as Khan cut her cake and stared hungrily at the dessert. Feeling sympathetic, she offered Lima a piece of her cake. Then she devoured it with enthusiasm. It became apparent that Lima was quite innocent and funny, imitating everything Khan said and causing everyone to laugh. It was clear that she had been through a lot, but there was a sense of hope and possibility as they all sat together, sharing food and laughter. In the end, Sogo and Khan make the decision to let Lima stay at Sogo's house. Hearing that, she is grateful for the kindness. Then she followed Khan's suggestion to take a bath and freshen up. As they left the room, Sogo noticed the round green stone glinting on the floor. Meanwhile, Gus was in the elevator with a mysterious woman, headed towards a room in the hotel. When they arrived, he was surprised to find legendary armor waiting for him, with the power to fight at close range. Suddenly, a man named Zoin appeared and offered him the chance to use the armor, convinced that he had the potential to unlock its full power. Then Gus agreed, but with the condition that he could choose his own team. Back at Sogo's house, Khan was helping Lima bathe while Sogo brought the green stone he had found to show him. As he turned on the cutting tool and pointed it at the rock, he was shocked when it suddenly changed shape, transforming into a caterpillar. The rock, now in the form of a caterpillar, spoke up, accusing him of kidnapping Felia. He was shocked to learn that the girl he had saved was named Felia. However, the caterpillar rock didn't stop there, threatening to change shape again and attack Sogo. However, it seemed to lack strength and instead fell limp. At the same time, a strange mark appeared on his hand and flashed with light before disappearing again. The scene shifts to a holding cell, where a white-haired boy is seen bound and imprisoned. Soon after, an officer approaches, untying the prisoner, but is suddenly attacked and loses an eye. The guards in the room open fire on the detainee, but their shots all miss their mark. The prisoner swiftly kills all the guards in the room. Then Gus enters the room, clapping his hands and addressing the prisoner by name, Pac. Pac is surprised to see him, but it becomes clear that Gus had intentionally allowed him to escape to test his strength and recruit him as an ally. The next morning, Felia is enthusiastic as she experiences the world around her for the first time. The caterpillar rock explains to Sogo that Felia has never before interacted with humans. Then Khan calls her over to bring breakfast for Sogo, but she accidentally uses her strength to move the plate, causing the rock to reprimand her. Hearing that, she immediately stops, causing the plate with curry to fall on Sogo. To everyone's surprise, the mark on Sogo's hand glows, and the caterpillar rock transforms into armor, destroying the house's roof. Felia, seeing the armor, calls out the name Mora, and summons a green stone that can also transform into armor. The following day, after causing destruction at Sogo's house, Mora lands in a pot of curry cooked by Domon, causing him to become angry and order Sogo and the others to leave. In the end, they decide to take Felia and Mora on a tour of the city of Indigo. As they walk around, Felia is enthusiastic, taking in all the sights of the city. Then Mora explains to Khan and Sogo that Felia is a special being, the embodiment of the planet, and she serves as her guardian. As they continue their tour, Khan buys Felia a cake as a treat. However, her enthusiasm gets the better of her, and she accidentally causes the cake to fly. She quickly uses her powers to prevent it from falling, but Mora shouts at Felia to be careful with her powers. However, she is startled by Mora's outburst, and her powers stop, causing the cake to fall on a man's face. Shortly after, Khan and Sogo quickly apologize to the man as Felia stood nearby, looking dejected at the sight of her fallen cake. Then they decided to take Felia to the Golden Tower to cheer her up. However, the man earlier seemed to have a vendetta against Felia. He sent an armored assailant to wreak havoc in Indigo City, hoping to draw out her powers. On the other hand, the armored assailant caused traffic lights to malfunction and accidents throughout the city. Then Gus and Pac found themselves caught in the chaos. However, Gus seemed to know who was behind the destruction. When Sogo, Khan, and Felia arrived at the Golden Tower, they saw chaos everywhere. Suddenly, the armor controlled by the man appeared and attacked them. Then Sogo quickly ordered Khan to take Felia to safety while he fought off the armor with a quick board. Enraged by Sogo's interference, the man chased after him. Meanwhile, Khan led Felia to a cable car to hide, but the man could locate them and hacked into the cable car system to escape. Seeing that, Sogo raced after them on his quick board, determined to protect Felia and bring the man to justice. At that moment, Khan and Felia panicked as they watched the armor approach. Then Khan begged Mora to transform into her own armor to defend them, but she revealed that she could not transform without Sogo by her side. Meanwhile, Sogo had a plan of his own. He had intentionally led the armor to a mine, where it became stuck in a hole. The man controlling the armor became furious at this setback and took control of another one, sending it after him. Soon after, he quickly jumped onto his own high-speed board and raced towards the cable car tracks. Then Khan seized the opportunity and threw Mora towards Sogo, who quickly signaled for her to transform. On the other hand, Mora transformed into her armor and launched an attack on the man's armor, leading to a fierce battle between them. However, the fight caused the cable car tracks to be cut, and Felia used her strength to keep the train suspended in the air and slowly lowered it to the ground, saving them all from danger. In the meantime, Gus had tracked down the mastermind behind the chaos, Alfred, and recruited him as a crew member. As the days passed, Felia used her powers to assist Domon in serving his customers at the restaurant. One day, Domon was alarmed by a news report about an impending typhoon that would hit Indigo's city. Then he decided to close the restaurant the next day as a precaution. Meanwhile, Gus tasked Alfred with hacking into the CCTV cameras in Indigo City to find Lima, who they knew as Felia. It didn't take long for them to locate her, who was with Sogo and Khan. As they worked to repair the roof of the house that Mora had accidentally destroyed earlier, Domon enlisted the help of Sogo and the others. They even came to lend a hand and help prepare food for their meal. Meanwhile, Mora continued to complain about Felia's use of her powers, and Domon asked Sogo if he was involved in anything dangerous. Hearing that, he lied and said no. Then Khan invited Felia to join her in the garden to harvest vegetables, and Felia used her powers to make the task more enjoyable. Suddenly, Roman arrived with a strange armor called the Valor R7. He offered to help Domon, but it seemed that he had no idea how to operate the armor. In the end, Roman almost destroyed the house, but Mora quickly transformed into her armor and managed to hold him back. Despite the disaster, they successfully repaired the house and celebrated with a dinner party. Meanwhile, a group of people watched the moon through a pair of binoculars in a room. One man declared that the door had opened, and they were ready to welcome the arrival of angels and a magical boy to the land of heaven. The next day, Felia reluctantly joined Sogo and Khan on their way to school, but he eventually convinced her to stay home while they went to school. However, when they arrived, they found that the school had been closed due to the storm. Then Khan suggested that they take shelter until the rain subsided. As they waited, Khan noticed that Sogo seemed deep in thought and asked him if there was something on his mind. He confided in her, telling her that his mother knew about the red crystal, but no one else seemed to believe in its existence. This made him determined to prove that the red crystal must be somewhere. Meanwhile, at home, Felia was alone and waiting for Sogo's return when Gus and Pac arrived and kidnapped her. Seeing that, Mora chased after the car carrying Felia but was struck by the vehicle instead. Sogo, sensing that something was wrong, decided to return home. When he arrived, he was shocked to see the chaotic state of the furniture and found Mora, who was in a disheveled state, telling him that Felia had been kidnapped. Upon hearing this news, Sogo jumped onto his high-speed board and followed Mora's instructions, which led them to an abandoned mine. When they arrived, they found a large vehicle that resembled a tank. Inside, Felia, who was being held captive, saw them through the window and looked relieved that they had come to rescue her. Meanwhile, top military officials gathered to discuss Gus's actions in capturing Lima. They wanted to use her powers to bring prosperity to the planet, but Gus had his own plans for her powers. On the other hand, Sogo moved closer to the vehicle, and Pac emerged and shot at him, hitting his quick board and causing him to be thrown off. After that, Sogo tries to release his power, and Mora transforms into her armor. However, Gus noticed this and ordered his men to prepare his new armor. He emerged from the vehicle and engaged in a fierce battle with her. Seeing that, Sogo took the opportunity to sneak into the tank. However, as Sogo managed to open the door, Pac appeared and arrested him, throwing him into a locked room. Meanwhile, Gus's armor proved to be strong and could push Mora back, but she suddenly disappeared, causing him to become angry and retreat back into the tank. Soon after, a plane contacted Gus and demanded that he hand over Lima. Meanwhile, inside the locked room, Sogo heard Felia's screams and broke through the roof to escape. Then Mora reappeared and punched a hole in the door, and together, they searched for Felia's whereabouts. There, they found her being taken away by Pac, who was planning to hand her over to someone else. However, those people never arrived, and instead, Sogo showed up. Shortly after, Pac took Felia hostage and threatened her with a knife, causing Mora to attack him. Suddenly, the attack sent Felia falling to the ground. Seeing that, Sogo quickly transformed Mora into her armor and raced to save Felia. To everyone's surprise, Felia transformed into a glowing red ball that had the power to alter Mora's armor into a different form. When Gus saw the new armor, he recognized it as an enemy, and came out to engage in battle with Mora once again. However, this time, Gus realized that his enemy was too powerful and began firing on Mora, causing her to fly through the air to avoid the attack. On the other hand, Sogo tried to get closer to Felia, who had turned into a red light floating in the air. Suddenly, Pac reappeared in an armor, intent on capturing him. Meanwhile, Mora fought back against Gus, continuously shooting at his armor until it was defeated. As Sogo was in danger, Felia screamed from within the red light and caused it to move toward Pac's armor, consuming it. At that moment, she also experienced flashbacks of her past. There, Gus looked on in surprise at her strength, and she quickly took Sogo away, with Mora following behind. Then the red light disappeared after Felia successfully saved Sogo, who was unconscious. Upon returning home, Felia told Sogo about a place called the Altar of Hell and said that she could recover her strength if they went there. Then he agreed to accompany her, and set off for the Altar of Hell. Hearing that, Roman and Otto also wanted to join them, but Sogo refused and instead tied them up before departing in Roman's vehicle. Soon after, Domon arrived home to find Roman and Otto in their bound state and asked who had done this to them. Then Roman informed him that Sogo and Khan had tied them up, and the group had gone to the Altar of Hell. On the other hand, the Administration Bureau learned of Felia's journey to the Altar of Hell and dispatched troops to capture her. Meanwhile, Sogo and Khan arrived at a village and saw a wedding procession on the road. However, she accidentally drove Roman's vehicle into the procession and injured one of the bride's flower boys. At that time, they were forced to find a replacement for the injured flower boy. To their surprise, the bride appointed Sogo as the replacement for the flower boy and brought him and his friends to the village. When they arrived at the bride's house, she asked him to try on the flower boy's outfit. However, they also needed a girl to be the flower boy's companion, so Khan was asked to wear the couple's dress. Deep down, Khan wanted to, but she was shy. Then Sogo said that she wouldn't look good in the dress because she was too tomboyish, so they decided to make Felia as the flower boy's partner. Hearing that, Khan was upset by that comment, and went up the hill to watch the wedding procession from afar. Soon after, Khan saw an airplane dropping several armor and realized Felia was in danger. The armor landed in front of the church, and a group of troops descended from them, telling the residents to remain calm while searching for someone. There, Sogo noticed the presence of the armor and monitored them from behind the building. He recognized them as belonging to the Administration Bureau. Suddenly, the troops broke down the church door and found Felia. At the same time, Khan entered the church and sprayed the troops with extinguishers before taking Felia and running away. When they emerged from the church, the administration's blue armors saw them, and Sogo immediately transformed Mora into her armor to protect them. However, the Administrative Bureau's armor threw a chain and tied up Mora, shooting at her as well. Fortunately, she managed to escape and flew through the air to avoid the attack. Meanwhile, Khan continued running with Felia, but another armor chased them, causing her to take Felia and hide in a warehouse. Then she offered to go out and lure the armor away so that Felia could escape. But Felia suddenly declared her love for Khan, surprising her. Felia explained that she had learned about love from someone who helped her put on a dress. She said that love is when she feels happy, when Khan is happy and vice versa, and when she feels sad if Khan feels sad. Hearing Felia's words touched Khan and made her feel guilty for being upset with Felia. Then she hugged Felia, but the roof of the building was suddenly breached by the Administrative Bureau's armor, which took Felia away. Soon after, Khan continued to attack the armor, angering its operator. Suddenly, the armor aimed its weapon at her, but it was shot down from another direction. As Roman and Otto arrived at the designated location in their armor Valor V7, Roman quickly sprang into action, using his newfound skills to take down an armor attacking Khan. Meanwhile, Felia and Sogo stood at the head of Mora. They fought alongside each other, eventually defeating the Administrative Bureau's armor with the help of the villagers, who pelted the enemy armor with stones and forced them to retreat. When this happened, Gus received a call from Agent Mitsubachi, who informed him that the Bureau of Administration had failed to capture Lima. She ordered Gus to complete the mission himself. On the other hand, Sogo and the rest of the group, now joined by Roman and Otto, set out on their journey to the Altar of Hell, using Roman's armor to increase the speed of their vehicle. However, their progress was abruptly halted when Mora released a blood-curdling scream, causing their vehicle to spin out of control and crash into a cliff. Seeing that, they decided to take a break at the site of the accident, and as they were playing by a nearby waterfall, Felia spotted a glowing butterfly. When the group continues on their journey, we see Domon reminiscing about his past and a soldier engaging in battle with him. However, we are quickly brought back to Gus and his crew, who set out on their quest to find Lima. Later, Roman attempts to cook dinner, but unfortunately, the mushroom he uses turns out to be poisonous, causing him to faint. The scene then moves and shows a man named Price reporting to his superiors about Zoin's reckless actions. Meanwhile, Sogo is shown fixing the group's vehicle, and Felia approaches him when the others are asleep. She reveals her strengths and fears, and Sogo also admits to his own fears. However, he promises her that they will always be together, and he will protect her. As the night wears on, Felia spots the glowing butterfly once again and follows it with Sogo in tow. Suddenly, they are confronted by Pac in his armor. Then he quickly pulls Felia away and calls for Mora, who appears and attacks Pac. Shortly after, they engage in a fierce battle, with Pac's armor proving to be a formidable opponent. However, before the fight can escalate further, Gus arrives in his own armor and orders Pac to arrest Lima while he takes on Mora himself. After Pac departs, Mora attacks Gus' armor with renewed vigor, causing him to become irate and unleash a barrage of attacks. Meanwhile, Pac manages to locate Felia but is confronted by Kaan wearing Roman's armor. There, she attacks Pac and orders Sogo and Felia to flee. As Gus continues to pursue Mora, Sogo and Felia find themselves cornered by a waterfall. Just as they are about to be caught, Alfred appears in his armor and approaches them from the cliff. However, Mora, battered by Gus' relentless attacks, hears Sogo and Felia's cries and quickly fires a shot into the waterfall, causing it to collapse and swallow them up. The scene then shifts to Domon's restaurant, where V is enjoying a cup of coffee made by him. Then she asks him why he opened the restaurant, and Domon tells her about a friend who used to love his coffee. Despite feeling his hands were dirty from killing many people as a soldier, his friend saw magic in his hands and the ability to make good coffee. When V asks about his friend, Domon tells her they disappeared to cover up a secret case. Hearing that, V was shocked by Domon's revelation and immediately apologized. However, he continues saying that his friend has entrusted Sogo to him, so he will try to protect Sogo. Suddenly, he called V Mitsubachi and pulled out a gun, pointing it at her as he demanded Sogo's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Sogo had awoken to find his friends unconscious by a stream. After waking them up, the group searched for Felia and Mora. As they wandered, they were mesmerized by a group of glowing butterflies that led them to a beautiful, unknown location. Not far from where they stood, they found Felia playing by a river with the butterflies. When Sogo asked her where they were, she admitted that she didn't know but that the place made her feel warm. As Felia tended to Mora, who was lying on the ground, a strange circle appeared in the sky above them. Seeing that, she screamed as the light seemed to pull her towards it, and they soon realized that the circle was a gate to the Altar of Hell. Knowing that, Sogo and his friends were determined to build a ship and voyage to the Altar of Hell. However, their plans were interrupted when Mora caught the scent of delicious cooking emanating from the forest. Drawn by the tantalizing aroma, she ventured off to investigate and stumbled upon a pot of food. Then they followed the scent as well and eventually found Domon, who had prepared the meal for them. As Domon gathered ingredients for the meal, memories of his past as a soldier resurfaced. He remembered escorting a man named Zoin to meet Aina Amagi, Sogo's mother and a researcher. Along the way, Zoin shared his belief that Lima, a mysterious power, could bring prosperity to their planet. Despite being skeptical of the theory, his duty was to eliminate anyone who stood in Zoin's way. When they arrived at Aina's office, they found her researching while holding a baby Sogo. Then she greeted Zoin and expressed her desire to create something that would fulfill his dream of bringing prosperity to the planet. In the present, Sogo and his friends were almost finished constructing their ship when Domon reappeared and warned him against continuing his mission. Domon explained that the enemies he would face were trained soldiers and warned that he would likely meet a futile end if he persisted. Suddenly, Domon revealed to Sogo that the red crystal he was searching for was the same one that caused his mother's death. Despite the warning, Sogo remained stubborn and said it was none of his concern if he died. Domon, frustrated with his attitude, struck him. In the past, Ana had been researching a crystal that could replace the Giftium resource. She finally made a breakthrough and named the crystal Lucifer. Just as she was about to tell Domon about her discovery, a group of soldiers broke into the room and killed her, taking the research with them. It was revealed that the soldiers were Zoin's men. After Ana's funeral, Domon sets out to retrieve the stolen research, but is caught by Zoin, who shot him. In the present, Sogo and Mora stood on the edge of a cliff, gazing at the gate leading to the altar of hell. There, she shared the story of her and Felia's origins, explaining that when the seed of life is planted on a planet, an angel is born to protect and maintain the planet's life. She said Felia was one of these angels and, as such, was the embodiment of a planet. Mora, born from the seed of life, was destined to protect Felia. Upon hearing this, Sogo realized that every planet in the universe must have its own Felia and Mora. Then Mora explained that if Felia continued to use her power, she would wither and fade away. She said they had to hurry to the altar of hell so that Felia could regain her strength. There, they vowed to protect Felia. On the other hand, as he infiltrated Gus' place, Domon attacked his old friend and took his identity card. He needed the card for business with the Administration Bureau. Seeing that, he was shocked that the attacker was Domon, who had taken care of him since his mother's death. The next night, Sogo, accompanied by Mora and Felia, left their friends and set off for the altar of hell. Along the way, Felia tries to convince Sogo not to fight with Domon, but he insists that Domon is not his father. He explained to Felia that Domon was just a friend of his mother who had taken care of him. The scene switches to when Domon stops his car at the Administration Bureau checkpoint, and he presents Gus' access card to the guard. But the card was rejected, and Domon was ordered to get out of the car. In response, he began shooting at the soldiers guarding the post, even though he was also shot in the stomach. Meanwhile, Sogo and Felia arrived at the gate, but they were confronted by many soldiers in armor as if the authorities had been expecting her arrival. There, she handed Domon's notebook to Sogo and told him to return it to Domon after escorting her to the altar of hell. As they walked, an airplane suddenly stopped in front of them, having detected their presence. Sogo quickly ordered Mora to transform into armor and attack the plane, soaring into the sky to distract the guards. While she engaged the planes, Sogo led Felia quietly towards the gate. However, they were caught by a soldier flying one of the planes. The soldier ordered them not to move, but Mora immediately lunged at the plane and brought it down. This prompted the armor troops below to open fire on her. Meanwhile, Roman, Khan, and Otto decided to go after Sogo, hoping to make amends for leaving him secretly. On the other hand, Domon managed to enter a room and meet a female soldier. Before he could speak, the woman told him that Zoin was not in the room. Then he left a message for Zoin to meet him at a funeral and left. Back at the battle, Mora continued to chase the attacking armor. Then Sogo told her that one of the armor was the troop commander, so she immediately grabbed the armor's hand, preparing to finish him off. Just then, Gus appeared and began shooting at Mora, engaging in yet another fight. At that time, she emphasized that she would not give up Felia, but Gus revealed that he was actually looking for Domon. Hearing that, Sogo began to realize that he was the person Gus was searching for. Sogo then asked Felia to go to the altar while he went to meet Gus. Upon seeing Sogo's arrival, Gus aimed his armor's weapon at him, but Mora intervened, holding him off. Shortly after, he ordered Alfred to send his new weapon. Then Alfred caught Mora and held her to the ground as Gus received the weapon. Suddenly, he fired it at Mora, causing her to bounce off and suffer serious damage. As Alfred apprehended Felia, Gus made a deal with Sogo. He offered to release her if Sogo brought Domon to him. Hearing that, Sogo was shocked that Gus was acquainted with Domon, who was waiting for Zoin at Ana's grave. Meanwhile, Domon was seen holding flowers and recounting his experiences with Sogo in front of Ana's grave. Back at Gus, he revealed that Domon was his teacher. Both were skilled warriors who had taken many lives. He also accused Sogo of turning Domon into a coward. Hearing that, Sogo became enraged and claimed to know Domon better than anyone else. Just then, Gus was shot at by another armor. Initially, he assumed it was Domon, but it was Roman in his armor. There, Roman threw smoke bombs at him and his men, allowing Felia to escape and Khan to rescue her. As Sogo ran towards Mora and tried to awaken the armor, she suddenly regained consciousness and merged with Sogo's power. Seeing that, Gus was infuriated, and they engaged in a fierce battle in the sky. During the fight, Gus consistently underestimates Domon, only making Sogo furious. Then he commanded Mora to use her full power, successfully scorching Gus and his armor. Meanwhile, Domon, who had been waiting at the cemetery all afternoon, was surprised to see Ana approaching from a distance. However, his joy turned to shock when Aina was revealed to be the female warrior he had encountered in Zoin's room, and he was stabbed by her sword. On the other hand, Sogo and his companions journeyed towards the altar of hell. Along the way, they encountered rows of strange crystals floating in the air. When Felia touched them, the crystals changed color. There, Khan noticed that Felia's face was red and asked if she was feeling unwell. She revealed that her face grew hot and her heart raced whenever Sogo was near, leading Khan to realize that Felia was in love. At the funeral, Vi arrived to find Domon lying on the ground, covered in blood. She screamed for help. As the afternoon wore on, Sogo and the others finally spotted the altar of hell and decided to rest and continue their journey the following day. Elsewhere, Gus, who had survived the previous fight, received a message from Mitsubachi informing him of Domon's death, much to his surprise. That night, Felia had a nightmare about Sogo and woke up to find him searching for flowers. He explained that boiling the flowers could cure fever. At the same time, she realized that the floating crystals reflected her emotions. Then Sogo told her that he was searching for the red crystal and hoped that she could provide clues. Soon after, he also thanked Felia for the amazing experiences they had shared and promised to show her an interesting place when they returned from the altar of hell. As Sogo held Felia's hand, she nearly confessed her feelings, but Sogo interrupted by showing her the flowers he had found. When he asked what Felia wanted to say, she replied that she would tell him when they returned home. The next day, Sogo and his companions reached the altar of hell and searched for the entrance. Suddenly, the ground beneath Felia gave way, and they discovered a tunnel leading to a lake with a red crystal at its center. There, she was asleep on the shore. Then Sogo tried to approach her, but the lake water repelled him. Suddenly, Felia stood up and placed the glowing symbol on Sogo's hand. At the same time, the lake water formed a vortex around Felia, and the red crystals floated upwards. Suddenly, a black Mora emerged, and Felia entered it. Then Sogo summoned Mora, and they united to fight Black Mora. However, their battle caused the place to collapse, so Sogo led his friends out. After that, he continued to fight Black Mora, cautioning Mora not to attack too fiercely as Felia was inside. Soon after, they flew into the sky, and Sogo struggled to keep up with Black Mora's rapid movements. He was shot from behind and nearly fell, but he managed to withstand the attack and ordered Mora to charge at Black Mora. However, Black Mora managed to stab Sogo and corner him. Seeing that, Felia emerged from Black Mora and begged it to stop attacking him. However, Black Mora claimed to be a guardian angel and promised not to harm Felia. She asked why Felia was protecting Sogo. Then Felia replied that he meant a lot to her, and offered to obey all of Black Mora's orders if she released him. Suddenly, Black Mora revealed that her goal was to capture Felia, and she agreed to go with it. Soon after, Black Mora withdrew its sword from Mora's body and fled, leaving her and Sogo to fall to the ground. Then Sogo asked Mora about Black Mora and why there were two guardian angels, but she was unaware of the identity of Black Mora and how she had taken Felia. Not long after, Otto received a phone call from V, who wanted to speak with Sogo. During the call, she informed Sogo that Domon had died. Hearing that, he was deeply saddened and blamed himself for Domon's death. Then Kaan slapped him and declared her feelings for him before leaving to rescue Felia. Meanwhile, Felia was in a room with Zoin. She asked why he was after her, and Zoin explained that all humans on the planet were after her, but he regretted that she had taken the form of a beautiful girl, Lima, who had to be destroyed. On the other hand, Sogo was motivated by Kaan's words and, along with Mora, set out to save Felia. Then they fought against the Administration Bureau's plane, with Mora able to sense Felia's presence within the building. However, the area around the building was protected by a shield, making it difficult for them to enter. Roman, in his armor, protected Mora by shooting at the fighters. As the fight continued, more fighter planes arrived and attacked Sogo and Mora. Then she took on the planes, causing one of them to crash and burn against the shield. Shortly after, they seized the opportunity to fly through a hole in the shield created by the crash, but the hole closed quickly. Seeing that, Mora blocked the hole and struck it, allowing them to finally break through the shield. However, Mora suddenly lost strength, and they free fell, landing in the bushes. Then she took Sogo into hiding, where they encountered an armor walking towards them. At that time, he was surprised to see that Mora had changed form into a girl and realized that the shield was interfering with her exoskeleton. A sense of despair washed over her as Felia struggled against the ropes that bound her to the machine. She knew that the machine was meant to drown her and that Zoin was using her as a means to an end to create prosperity on their planet, even if it meant destroying her and taking her pure crystal. On the other hand, Sogo and Mora were trying to find a way into the building where Felia was being held. They knew they had to act fast, but the Administration Bureau soldiers guarding the entrance were making it nearly impossible. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, a truck came racing toward the guards. From within, V emerged, ready to take on the guards herself. At that time, Sogo couldn't believe his eyes. What was V doing there? She explained that she was taking over Domon's job and had come to rescue Felia. Then she told Sogo to go save Felia, who was on the top floor of the building. As Sogo raced to Felia's side, Zoin watched the machine slowly turning Felia's body into a crystal. He explained that Felia was a tarnished crystal and that by cleansing her of the stains and restoring her purity, Lucifer would be able to emerge from the crystal shards. At the same time, when Mora struggled to come to terms with Felia's disappearance, a group of armor soldiers confronted them. Sogo recognized the armor as belonging to the troop commander she had defeated earlier. It seemed that the commander was seeking revenge on them. Just when things seemed at their worst, a wall nearby shattered and another armor emerged. It was Gus' pack and Alfred's armor. But rather than targeting him, Gus and the others were searching for the person who had killed Domon. They immediately fought with the Administration Bureau armor, allowing Sogo to escape. Meanwhile, outside the building, Roman was trying to shoot a device at the center of the shield surrounding the building. If they could destroy the object, the shield would disappear. On the other hand, inside the machine, Felia was turning into a crystal, her thoughts consumed by the fear that she would never see Sogo or her friends again. As Sogo and Mora made their way toward Felia's location, they were suddenly dropped into a hole by a device. The system detected their presence and reported them to Zoin. There Zoin saw him and recognized that he was Aina's son. Not long after, a woman named Anatolia appeared at Zoin's side. Then he told her that the two intruders were her guests, and ordered her to bring Sogo to her. As Anatolia approached Zoin, she suddenly drew a sword and killed the man. At the same time, Sogo and Mora also appeared in the room due to Zoin's orders. Sogo immediately ran towards the machine and tried to reach Felia, but Anatolia blocked him with her sword. It became clear that she also intended to turn Felia into Lucifer. Soon after, Felia cried out for Sogo as Mora continued to shoot and attack Anatolia. Mora argued that Felia could still provide the planet's prosperity without becoming Lucifer, but Anatolia insisted that they needed Lucifer for another planet. She lifted her face and revealed a giant planet moving towards their own. As Sogo raced up the stairs, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was running out of time. When he finally reached the machine's wheels, he tried to call out to Felia and beat them in an attempt to stop them from spinning. On the other hand, Mora and Anatolia continued to fight fiercely, but it quickly became apparent that Anatolia was no ordinary human. She was stronger and faster than anyone Mora had ever faced. Suddenly, Anatolia transformed into Black Mora. Outside the building, Roman and the others finally managed to destroy the shield's source, giving Sogo the strength he needed to join Mora in the fight. The scene changed, showing when the battle raged on. There, Felia opened her eyes and saw Sogo sitting not far from her. She called out to him, and he rushed to her side, apologizing for being late to save her. But Felia brushed off his apology, grateful that he had come for her. Then Sogo assured her that everything was fine now and there was nothing to be afraid of. Hearing that, Felia asked about Khan and the others, but Sogo avoided the question, telling her only that he would always be with her no matter what happened. Then she leaned on his back, but something felt off. It was as if they were the only two people in the room. Soon after, Sogo stood up, telling her that if they were attacked again, he might not be able to protect her. Then he offered to take her to a world where they could live peacefully. However, Felia wasn't sure such a place even existed, but as long as she was with Sogo, she was willing to go anywhere. Meanwhile, when Mora continued to fight Black Mora, the city outside the dividing wall began to rise. There V noticed the strange phenomenon but couldn't understand what was happening. Back in the room, Sogo explained to Felia that to reach the world he had described, they needed a ticket, and that ticket could be found within her power. He asked her how to activate it, but Felia admitted that she didn't know. Then Sogo urged her to show him her strength, but as she focused on the figure in front of her, she realized it wasn't him. It was a black shadow with scary red eyes. She heard the real Sogo calling out to her, and knew she had to find a way to break free. At the same time, Mora struggled to pull the red crystal from Black Mora's chest, and she finally managed to yank it free. However, Black Mora was not defeated so easily. She attacked Mora again, causing the crystal to fall and shatter. Mora retaliated by stabbing Black Mora with a sword and detonating it, causing the beast to transform into an ancient animal. When the danger had passed, Sogo jumped out and hugged Felia, telling her everything was safe now. But suddenly, a sign on his hand lit up, and a voice spoke out, saying that Sogo was the person it had been searching for. Suddenly, Felia's crystal shards floated towards Sogo, and the two were reunited in a burst of light. As the shards exploded, Black Mora reappeared, absorbing Sogo into her body. Then Felia realized that Sogo was the key to fulfilling Black Mora's dream. She asked if Black Mora also needed her, but the beast told her she didn't need an angel who had lost her powers. With that, Black Mora flew away, leaving a vortex in her wake. Soon after, Mora immediately grabbed Felia and tried to save her. As Black Mora continued to fly away from the gift planet, Felia used all of her remaining strength to try and stop the vortex. But it seemed that her powers had completely disappeared. Still, she insisted that Mora had to save Sogo since he had saved her so many times before. Soon after, she placed her hand on Mora's chest, channeling all of her remaining strength into the other woman. Then they united, and Mora transformed, darting off into outer space after Sogo. On the other hand, Vi was still fighting against the armors and Gus. Suddenly, Alfred reported to Gus that a planet called Earth was moving closer to theirs, causing a powerful vortex that was difficult to handle. In the end, Gus and the troop commander agreed to a ceasefire to evacuate the residents. Alfred also reported that he had opened access to the fort. Meanwhile, as Black Mora watched from outer space, two planets prepared to collide. Felia and Mora were able to locate him, but when Felia ordered Black Mora to return Sogo, she attacked her instead. Then they engaged in a fierce battle, exchanging shots as they flew through the void of space. During the fight, Felia discovered that Black Mora was actually a guardian angel for Earth. She told Felia that the planet had once been the most prosperous in the galaxy, with rich soil and beautiful beaches. However, the inhabitants had depleted its resources, causing it to die along with the angels who guarded it. Because she was abandoned by her fellow angels, Black Mora was left alone on the dying planet, filled with despair. Then she eventually found a new planet with no life, but after waiting for 3 centuries for another angel to join and recreate Earth, none came. As time passed, her powers waned, and she was forced to descend to the planet and become the servant of Zoin. Despite this, Felia knew they had to stop the collision between the two planets. Determined to save both worlds from destruction, she continued to fight against Black Mora, eventually defeating her and preventing the collision. Unexpectedly, Black Mora had come to the planet hoping to find the gift she needed to transform herself into an angel. However, she unexpectedly stumbled upon Felia, who possessed the key to unlocking the hidden power of angels. Despite this, Felia did not have the Lucifer Shard or Sogo's power that Black Mora needed to complete her transformation. Determined to become an angel, Black Mora attacked Felia and declared that she no longer needed planet gifts or Earth, as she planned to create her own planet. Felia, touched by her determination, offered to become her angel. As this unfolded, a tsunami threatened to engulf the gift planet and destroy its cities. Then the residents fled to the Fortress of Refuge, seeking safety. Back with Black Mora and Felia, she rejected the offer, stating that she was now too weak. In a fit of desperation, she used all of her remaining strength to attack Felia, causing her own body to be destroyed and Felia to be enveloped in a ball of light. On the other hand, when the earthquake devastated the land of Planet Gift, Felia remained, her consciousness barely hanging on. She lamented the condition of the planet she was meant to protect. Suddenly, Black Mora appeared by her side and reassured her that she had done her best. Soon after, Felia grasped the Lucifer Shard and told Black Mora that she would protect the planet where Sogo lived. Understanding that this was her last chance, Black Mora slowly faded away, saying goodbye to Felia as she shot back toward her own body. Then Felia took hold of Sogo and implored him to open his eyes. At that moment, Felia finally confessed her feelings for Sogo. She told him that even though she could not be by his side, she would always watch over him. The anime ends with Sogo returning to his destroyed planet, remembering his last encounter with Felia. He holds the Lucifer Shard and admits his feelings for her, gazing up at the sky as planet Earth moves further away. And the anime ends. The moral message we can learn from this anime is the importance of perseverance and determination. The characters Sogo, Felia, and Black Mora all demonstrate this by fighting for their respective causes. Sogo fights to uncover the truth about his mother, Felia fights for him, and Black Mora fights for her planet. So, we should never give up on something we believe in, no matter how difficult it may seem.